After that whole experience in Coyote Pass,
Here's what they definitely don't want you to know about Coyote Pass, and why the moment Meri said the word appraisal, Kody and Robyn reacted like someone set off a smoke bomb under their feet. For years, we've heard Kody insist that everyone contributed personal funds to buy that land. But the second Meri calmly suggested bringing in a real appraiser, an actual neutral professional, the room shifted. Kody choked on his own explanation. Robyn froze, and suddenly, both of them acted like the word appraisal was a threat to national security, and that's because it is, at least to their narrative. An appraisal would expose exactly who paid what, who didn't, and how the so-called family money was funneled into one household while the others were expected to contribute without question. It would reveal the truth behind those personal funds that somehow always came from everyone except the people benefiting most. So when Meri dropped that bomb, Kody flinched. Robyn contradicted him instantly, and the panic wasn't subtle. It was practically televised in HD. Because for the first time, someone wasn't asking for their version of the truth. Someone was asking for receipts, and that's when everything started to unravel. Kody Brown's latest bewilderment, his confusion over why the 3 original wives are not lining up to bankroll the 2 youngest children in his remaining household, would be amusing if it weren't so revealing. The question alone presumes a level of entitlement so inflated it could float over Coyote Pass like a parade balloon. The real puzzle is why anyone is expected to subsidize the lifestyle choices of a couple already drowning in collectibles, curios, and conveniently selective memory. Before requesting outside contributions, there is a long list of items that could be liquidated without threatening anyone's survival. The endless knickknacks, the Dickensian village decor, the doll collections purchased with abandon, the watch hoard, the jewelry, the recreational vehicles, and the rest of the household bric-a-brac curated with the financial discipline of a magpie. Yet these remain untouched. Apparently, financial responsibility begins only when someone else's wallet is involved. The history speaks for itself. Funds flowed freely toward the favored household, while contributions from others were treated as an inexhaustible resource. The acquisition of Coyote Pass remains a masterclass in creative accounting, with family money stretched, repackaged, and repurposed as personal contributions, while the actual heavy lifting was done by others. The beneficiaries, naturally, have no intention of returning anything to those who sacrificed to make it possible. Then there is the matter of parental obligation, a concept that seems to evaporate the moment a child is not physically located in the preferred household. The refusal to contribute to Isabel's surgery became the defining moment, a clear statement of priorities. Add to that the fact that regular support for Truly required a court order, and the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The older children, who spent years on camera long before the newer arrivals, effectively subsidized a future that did not include them. Meanwhile, the expectation persists that others should now finance the upbringing of children carefully isolated from the broader family. The reality is simple. Responsibility for those children lies with the parents who chose to cut them off from everyone else. Demanding financial assistance from the very people excluded from their lives is not merely tone-deaf, it is textbook gaslighting. All of this unfolds against the backdrop of a household that has never hesitated to indulge its own tastes. Anyone who can maintain a $1 million home, stockpile toys and trinkets, support a shopping habit that treats dolls as investment vehicles, and acquire recreational equipment with the enthusiasm of a catalog model can certainly afford 2 children without passing the plate. What remains, then, is the portrait of a man convinced he is owed support by virtue of existing, deferring responsibility while insisting others shoulder it. The solution is neither mysterious nor complicated. Stop spending recklessly. Acknowledge the responsibilities already neglected, and cease expecting the original wives to subsidize a household that has treated them as optional extras. But confronting reality requires accountability, and accountability has never been this couple's preferred decor. Here's the uncomfortable truth about why Robyn rejected therapy. It wasn't about distrust. It was about exposure. The Sedona marriage retreat was intended to be an exercise in unity, but it served mainly as a showcase for Robyn's ongoing allergy to therapy. Her aversion is less philosophical than self-preserving. Professionals have an inconvenient tendency to recognize patterns, and Robyn works best when her patterns go unexamined. The retreat only amplified what has always been evident. Robyn's insecurity centers squarely on Christine. From the earliest seasons, the dynamic is impossible to miss. When Kody introduced Robyn into the family, he casually suggested she consult Christine about something as innocent as breakfast. The flash of irritation on Robyn's face all but confirmed that Christine represented everything she herself could never manufacture: competence, stability, and the effortless ability to keep the family running. Christine functioned as the household's unacknowledged command center, organizing, cooking, working part-time, and actually raising the children. No wonder resentment simmered. Some people dislike the wheel hub because it does the job they claim to want. As the years progressed, the inevitable followed. Kody periodically insisted that the wives gossiped about one another, but the most sustained campaign of criticism unmistakably targeted Christine. Jealousy has a distinctive flavor, and the seasoning was unmistakable. The Sedona retreat itself offered a masterclass in avoidance. Robyn declared she didn't trust the therapist, Nancy, then promptly called in sick with a convenient backache. It was a transparent retreat from the retreat, especially after Nancy began discerning what was actually going on. The others arrived ready to participate, only to watch a key member opt out at the last minute while professing distrust of the entire process. Nothing builds confidence quite like someone rejecting professional help after everyone has already paid for it. Kody's contribution wasn't much better. He immediately dismissed the therapist for being a woman and pre-accused her of harboring feminist leanings. His hostility was less conviction than fear masquerading as bravado. Nothing rattles him quite like a professional who refuses to indulge his theatrics. The episode also featured the now infamous personality test, an event Robyn later denied ever occurred. The footage, however, shows her completing it. Christine later noted that the results suggested Robyn enjoys drama, which prompted Robyn to claim that perhaps someone else had taken the test for her. Conspiracy theories are apparently more comfortable than inconvenient facts. Instead of choosing a graceful explanation, such as disliking how the results were weaponized, Robyn opted for the intellectual equivalent of "did not." It made her look less persecuted and more perplexed by basic reality. The body placement exercise further unveiled the dynamics she preferred to keep hidden. Robyn positioned herself between Meri and Kody, the physical manifestation of the emotional arrangement she has long cultivated. And when Meri cried, encouraged by Nancy to articulate her feelings, Robyn did not respond with empathy. She responded with indignation that a therapist would dare to create a space where honesty might slip out. Vulnerability from others threatens only those who have something to lose from the truth. Her intellectual evasions have become a pattern. She lies about verifiable matters, even trivial ones, and consistently chooses the least credible explanation available. A competent strategist would have reframed the personality test issue, or even used it to garner sympathy. Instead, she clings to denials that insult the viewer's intelligence far more than they repair her own image. What she lacks in strategy, she compensates for in performance. Her preferred role is the fragile damsel who elicits Kody's protection by appearing overwhelmed, helpless, and in need of special handling. Rather than contributing through competence, an area dominated by the other wives, she chooses manipulation and strategic frailty. It is a labor-saving approach, though not an admirable one. Meanwhile, the pattern of disparaging Christine continued. Kody's petty retellings of stories like the nacho incident appeared designed less to resolve conflict and more to amuse Robyn. Even in entrepreneurial discussions, Christine's ideas were dismissed out of hand, only for similar suggestions from others to be praised as strokes of brilliance. The contrast was transparent. Belittling Christine was rewarded, and nothing builds a habit faster than positive reinforcement. Ultimately, Christine represented something Robyn could never eclipse: loyalty from the children, the role of family center of gravity, and a natural authority earned rather than performed. Christine's connection to the family gave her both influence and Kody's historic favor. For someone as dependent on curated sympathy as Robyn, that level of organic loyalty constituted a threat. The solution was predictable: erode Christine's standing, isolate Kody, and cultivate dependency. The retreat intended to build unity, but all it truly revealed was the architecture of long-standing resentment, insecurity, and manipulation. In that sense, at least, the therapy worked, just not in the way its participants intended. Kody Brown didn't just miss out on Truly, he proved he was never interested in being her father in the first place. Kody Brown's most astounding talent has never been plural marriage, televised family management, or even selective memory. No. His true gift is the remarkable ability to overlook the children standing directly in front of him, especially the ones who aren't connected to his preferred household. Few examples make this clearer than his relationship, or lack thereof, with Truly. Rewatching the family's earlier years provides a painfully sharp contrast. There is Truly, open-hearted, affectionate, eager to belong, responding to her sister Maddie's request to be a flower girl with all the grace and warmth a parent claims to cherish. And then there is Kody, somehow missing the existence of this bright, loving child, despite sharing a roof with her. The loss is his, though he seems blissfully unaware of what he forfeited: the chance to know a daughter capable of offering exactly the kind of devotion he later complained no one showed him. Fortunately, life occasionally compensates where a parent will not. Christine's marriage to David introduced Truly to something she'd been denied for years: a dependable adult who actually shows up. Their easy companionship, whether riding together during Janelle's move or simply enjoying each other's company, speaks volumes. Space could have been made elsewhere had she wanted distance, but she didn't. That tells the entire story. It also explains why Christine, after years of emotional starvation, may have sought stability with urgency. She wanted partnership for herself, yes, but she also wanted a reliable father figure for her youngest child. Truly's comfort around David makes the reasoning unmistakable. Meanwhile, Kody's treatment of Christine's daughters continues to be a masterclass in neglect. He once claimed relocating Truly would save their relationship. Translation: distance would prevent her from watching him ignore her in real time. It's hard to repair a bond that was never prioritized in the first place. And Truly isn't the only casualty. The children outside Robyn's household spent years orbiting the perimeter of Kody's midlife crisis love bubble. Savannah stands out in particular: quiet, overlooked, and lacking the robust support network that seems to surround Truly. Her early years coincided with the moment Kody redirected his attention almost exclusively to one branch of the family, leaving the others to wither in the shadow. It's not complicated. Kody avoided Christine's pain, distanced himself from her struggles after childbirth, and reduced paternal visits to the language of babysitting. Truly had no chance to develop the starry-eyed adoration he apparently required before offering affection, and receiving anything less left him disinterested. The result is a family in which the sweetest children were sidelined, the most vulnerable were overlooked, and the father at the center insists he's the victim of everyone else's shortcomings. The real tragedy isn't that these kids failed to love him. It's that he never bothered to know them well enough to notice how much love they had to give. Here's what they don't tell you about the Brown family. Robyn didn't join the family. She staged a takeover. Robyn's latest declaration that Meri, Janelle, and Christine changed simply because they visited their adult children who moved away is a remarkable feat of delusion, even by her own standards. The family, after all, uprooted its entire life and relocated to Flagstaff so that her son could attend the college of his choice. The other mothers were the ones who left their children behind, not the other way around. Yet, somehow, this becomes evidence of their moral decline. Her criticism of the original 3 wives for maintaining relationships with their grown children reveals an astonishing level of self-absorption. Wanting to visit one's adult children is apparently suspicious behavior, unless, of course, the child belongs to her. The world she describes bears no resemblance to the actual one. But that has rarely stopped her before. Predictably, she twists the narrative to cast herself as the reasonable party. It's a familiar pattern in every conversation with Kody. A situation is reinterpreted, polished, and reframed until she alone emerges as the misunderstood heroine. Her latest flourish, referring to herself, Kody, and their children as the bigger family, the nucleus, is almost impressive in its audacity. The true nucleus of the family has always been the original 3 wives and their children, who built the structure long before her entrance. The irony is rich. After isolating Kody and creating an environment in which any child who failed to abide by her standards found themselves effectively exiled, she now laments that no one is eager to remain attached to this so-called nucleus. She insists her children were never accepted, then, in the next breath, elevates them to the center of the universe. Consistency is apparently optional. Her discomfort with the older children's independence is palpable. Many of them were out of the house before her youngest could read. Of course, the age gap affects their relationships. Yet, she treats normal adulthood, moving out, marrying, starting families, as a threat to her carefully curated kingdom. No wonder her adult children hesitate to leave. In her world, independence is synonymous with abandonment. She demands a degree of emotional dependence so extreme that attending church without maternal supervision becomes an act of rebellion. The original wives, by contrast, raised children who aren't paralyzed by the prospect of adulthood, a trait she seems to interpret as personal betrayal. Even her relationship with Kody reflects the same pattern of cruelty masked as martyrdom. She already knows he has ended things with the other wives, yet she continues prodding him to repeat it aloud, as though extracting emotional confessions were a sport. She won, yet still insists on relitigating the victory. And of course, the perpetual refrain: she has never done anything wrong, ever. The original wives were simply jealous. Everyone has victimized her. Kody will dutifully confirm it. In her narrative, she is the eternally persecuted innocent, surrounded somehow by a family that keeps failing to recognize her perfection. It's a performance she never tires of giving, even as the audience dwindles. Here's what no one wants to admit about Kody Brown's impressive run in that competition. Kody Brown's improbable run in an athletic competition has been treated as some great mystery, as though a middle-aged man outlasting athletes young enough to be his sons could only be explained by divine intervention or sheer delusion. In reality, the explanation is far less enchanting and far more irritating. Start with the environmental advantage Kody enjoyed long before the cameras rolled. Life in the mountains of Flagstaff, Arizona means living and training at elevation, where the air is thinner, the lungs work harder, and even a casual jog becomes involuntary altitude conditioning. It is not Everest, but it doesn't need to be. Compared with competitors coming from sea-level cities, New York, Los Angeles, Nashville, it's a built-in physiological boost. Then there is the chemical cocktail he treats as both personality trait and daily regimen. His devotion to testosterone replacement therapy, questionable supplements, and whatever other unregulated masculinity potions he cycles through is hardly subtle. The man radiates pharmaceutical enthusiasm. None of this makes him healthy, quite the opposite, but it does make him artificially energized. And energy, unfortunately, is useful in physical competition. Yet even that isn't the whole story. Athleticism has always been his favorite hobby, right behind sermonizing and self-mythologizing. With minimal employment obligations and unlimited time to spend at the gym, he has maintained solid cardiovascular fitness. No amount of chemical bravado can carry 100 pounds up a hill. That feat requires conditioning, and he has it. Annoying, but true. The tragicomedy lies in the outcome. His staying power offered endless opportunities to watch him bluster, posture, and generally confirm every suspicion about his ego, without granting him the victory he clearly craved. Had he been eliminated immediately, the audience would have missed the slow, satisfying reveal of just how universally disliked he was by those forced to share the screen with him. What should raise eyebrows, however, is the show's willingness to greenlight his supplement stash. Allowing substances with stimulant-like effects, practically Adderall under a different label, on the basis of an undiagnosed ADHD claim, is a curious interpretation of medical oversight. Performance-enhancing compounds with no legitimate prescription should never have made it past the production's gatekeepers. In the end, there was never any real mystery. High-altitude lungs, a lifetime of gym time, and enough chemical assistance to stock a minor apothecary will take a person far. Not to glory, thankfully, but far enough for everyone else to enjoy the spectacle. Here's what no one wants to admit about the Browns' big move to Flagstaff. It was never about the kids' best interests. The Great Flagstaff Migration, otherwise known as Kody Brown's most spectacular exercise in financial spontaneity, remains one of the franchise's finest case studies in chaos. The announcement is delivered with his signature confidence. The family is leaving Las Vegas. Naturally, the wives with school-aged children respond with reasonable hesitation. Janelle and Christine point out the obvious. Uprooting teenagers in the middle of high school is not, in fact, a whimsical adventure. Robyn offers nothing until she sees which way the wind is blowing, then suddenly recasts the move as an inspired idea. A coincidence, no doubt, that the plan conveniently aligns with the desire to be near Dayton's school. What follows is a masterclass in pressuring reluctance into compliance. Eventually, Janelle concedes and informs Gabe that the move is happening whether it upends his schooling or not. The remarkable part isn't that the decision was made. It's that no one paused to entertain options that were staring the adults in the face. Teenagers with a year or two left in high school could have stayed in Las Vegas under entirely reasonable supervision. Maddie and Caleb lived there. Multiple adults routinely commuted long distances for far less urgent reasons. Meri, by all evidence, would have been willing to stay back. Janelle had done so before. Christine wanted to. And the homes weren't even on the market immediately, thanks in part to Robyn's social calendar. In other words, the family possessed the space, the adults, and the time to allow Gabe and Gwen to finish high school where they were thriving, yet never offered them the choice. It's little wonder that Gabe, in particular, became the perennial casualty of these impulsive decisions. Watching him now, speaking warmly about a girlfriend and building a life shaped by his own choices, feels like long overdue justice. The hope is that adulthood offers him the stability the move to Flagstaff so conspicuously denied. Here's what no one wants to admit about the Coyote Pass drama. Meri is the only one playing chess, while everyone else is chewing on the pieces. Meri performed the only rational maneuver available in a household where transparency is treated like contraband. She relayed Janelle's comments about Coyote Pass to the very people who have spent years engineering the financial labyrinth: Kody and Robyn. The idea that Janelle would confide major property plans to a woman she once planned to replace with a secret wedding and then expect silence is, at best, optimistic. At worst, it's another episode in Janelle's long-running strategy of letting someone else handle the adult paperwork while she returns to her regularly scheduled inertia. What Meri did was not betrayal. It was reconnaissance. She placed Janelle's concerns on the table, specifically to watch how Kody and Robyn flinched. And flinch they did. The moment land value came up, Kody turned the color of overripe fruit and sputtered through a nonsensical monologue about maybe selling the property, as if improvising a distraction from his obvious plan to secure the lion's share. Robyn, ever the unhelpful scene partner, immediately contradicted him by announcing she didn't want to sell anything, forcing him to choke on his own deflection. Of course, Meri followed this performance with the calm, lethal suggestion of an appraisal, an innocent proposal that just happens to destroy any opportunity for quiet financial sleight of hand. Her deadpan reminder that Flagstaff does, in fact, possess appraisers was a masterstroke, delivered with the kind of poise one earns only after years of being gaslit about family unity. In the midst of all this, Kody attempted to revive his favorite tactic, pitting the women against each other. His statement that Janelle doesn't even like Meri was meant as a wedge, but instead revealed his own spiritual hypocrisy. The man who preaches moral duty apparently believes decency is optional unless affection is present, a fascinating theological stance for someone claiming moral authority. The truth is far simpler. He cannot tolerate the possibility that Meri and Janelle might cooperate long enough to limit his maneuvering room. And yes, Meri has finally stopped offering Robyn the warm deference that once propped up the family's fragile hierarchy. The performative tears at Meri's move-out day earned nothing but polite frost, suggesting Meri now recognizes emotional manipulation even when it arrives with a gift bag. The sudden end of Robyn's exaggerated laughter and faux sisterhood is telling. Without Kody's dangling promises as leverage, Meri no longer plays the role assigned to her. The result is a woman quietly planting legal and strategic stakes on Coyote Pass, documenting every, "Of course we'll split it evenly," for posterity and camera crews alike. She is no longer the outsider begging for scraps of affection. She is the one collecting evidence, testing reactions, and enjoying the discomfort she causes in a household that once depended on her silence. In short, Meri has finally read the room. And she is no longer willing to let anyone, least of all Kody, rearrange the furniture while her back is turned. They won't say this on camera, but Kody Brown's silence after his son's death tells a far darker story than the show admits. Kody Brown's latest display of emotional absenteeism would be impressive if it weren't unfolding in the shadow of a family tragedy. The recent conversation about Coyote Pass revealed a detail so stark it practically glows. Kody has not spoken to Janelle, his partner of 3 decades and the mother of half his children, following the death of their son. Not months or years later, mere weeks. In the universe of parental responsibility, this level of detachment would normally require laboratory study. 2 parents share a loss that no one else on Earth can fully understand, yet only one seems to have shown up for the grief. The other is apparently far too occupied, though with what exactly remains a mystery. One would think that the death of a child outranks whatever crises he is currently prioritizing, but expectations of emotional presence have never been Kody's strong suit. Janelle, it seems, is long past seeking comfort from him. She asks only for basic decency toward her children and her rightful portion of shared property and finances, an exceedingly modest list after decades of contribution. Emotional support has never been part of the package he offered her, or Meri, or Christine. At this point, anything he attempted to provide would amount to a too-late performance, and Janelle appears uninterested in auditioning for that role again. Something at one of Garrison's services clearly ruptured whatever thin cordiality remained. Even McKelty, typically the most diplomatic defender of Kody and Robyn, abruptly distanced herself. Theories swirl about inappropriate behavior, camera crews, or dramatic exits, but regardless of the specifics, the effect was unmistakable. The final veneer of family unity cracked in full view. Under these circumstances, avoiding contact with Kody is less an emotional choice than an act of self-preservation. Seeking solace from the man who abandoned her children would be an exercise in futility. Narcissism, after all, rarely makes room for anyone else's pain. And through all this, one question lingers unanswered. Has he even reached out to his daughter Savannah? Silence may be Kody's preferred method of communication, but in moments of profound family loss, silence speaks louder than anything he might have said. Subscribe